Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trek Canon. So, today I'm going to do another bootleg edition, right? Now, I always have a little no shit there I was story about why it is that I make a video and what kind of led me to why I make the videos that I do. So, let me start with that little anecdote. So, here we go. I was recently watching a video about 10 of the worst Star Trek The Next Generation episodes made, right? And one of them was the episode Masks. It's a season 7, episode 17, I believe, episode of The Next Generation. And I was like, what? How can it be? How can somebody not like Mask? Man, Mask. Okay, look, let me tell you something. Mask was written by Joe Minoski or something like that. I think I'm jacking his whole last name up, right? But Joe Minoski wrote the episode Darmok. Everybody know Darmok, man. Darmok and Jalad on Tanagra. At Tanagra, he even wrote, I think it was the episode Clues, which is another really, really good one. So it got me thinking, maybe, just maybe, it wasn't the fact that it was a bad episode. Maybe it was a lot of people just didn't understand what was going on in it. And why, to me, I think it was a really nice episode. So today I wanted to talk about that episode, the episode Masks, season 7, uh, episode 17. So I took a few notes because there was a lot of things that I wanted to cover in this episode, right? So if I look down in my notes, just understand that again, not everything can fit in my front. Oh, I'm sorry, my head. That's a little Altarian speak. I'm sorry, that's a whole nother episode. Those that's initiated would know what that meant anyway. So let's talk about this. So this particular episode, like I said, of the mass, we're going to talk about a species called the Masakans. And they wasn't actually called the Masakans in the episode, but I think it's pretty good to call them that. All right. We'll call them the Masakans. All right. Now, a little bit of backstory on the episode. Michael Piller, one of the executive producers of Star Trek, had this idea about the Great Library of Alexandria. And what he wanted to do was kind of make a story that centered around that particular concept. And eventually, what they came up with this particular this episode. Now, this theme has been covered a lot in various iterations of sci-fi. With Sequest, for instance, Sequest DSV, they had an episode where they found the sunken city, the sunken library of the Library of Alexandria. In what was it? In SG1, they had the five great races that came together. That particular temple, they had something like that in Babylon 5, where they thought they found. A suppository of knowledge that came through the jump gates. Okay, turned out that was not a good thing. Anywho, so there's been a lot of iterations of this particular theme throughout science fiction. Everybody kind of tackled it their own particular way. But basically, the theme is a suppository of knowledge from various races or cultures or things like that, and that's been lost, and now somebody has found it. Okay, so this arc basically had picked up a lot of sediment and everything like that. Long story short, it looked like a comet when they rode up on it, and they decided to scan it. Man, the echo bounced back, and they decided to go to a lower intensity scan, which would take a lot more time, maybe 36 hours, 32 hours, something like that. But in the process of doing this, they start finding out that weird stuff is happening on the ship, symbols, artifacts popping up. So they come up with this plan to use the phasers to basically melt away the ice that's on this comet and see what's doing this. When they do this, they find this alien craft that was almost all solid and basically made out of metals, some that they could identify and some they couldn't. Now, this particular arc had been on a journey for 87 million Earth years, 87 Terran years. Now, if you think about that, that was before, that was during the dinosaurs, probably before them. Okay, that this particular species made this arc. All right, so just to put it in a perspective of the technology and the amount of time that the species had existed was around, relating to humans. Now, there's like 4 or 5 different categories that I wanted to talk about when it came to this particular episode, mass. So we'll start with the first one. All right, now the mental health aspect. Now, there's a couple of different mental health type things that are being dealt with because I'm sorry, everybody know how I roll. Everybody know how I roll. Spoilers. There's going to be spoilers. All right. As such, if you don't want to know what's going to happen, please turn off the video and come back to it later. Check out the episode so you'll know what I'm talking about. All right. And you'll be able to leave some really good comments that we can talk about and have some really good debates, because I love debating the comments. It's always awesome. I learn things, you guys learn things. That's the point of why we make the videos, right? So one of the things is schizophrenia, dementia, all right? And the other one was multiple personality disorder. Now, it is very cool how they handled the Data, who had started to become occupied by various personas that was being put on them by this arc. Okay. Side note, for those who don't know, Data is the most dangerous person on the Enterprise. He is by far the most dangerous person on the Enterprise, but Data is also the most awesome person on the Enterprise. If Data decided to take over the ship, there would be absolutely nothing anybody on the ship can do about it. And he's done it before, and there was absolutely nothing anybody on the ship could do about it. All right. Data is extremely strong, smart. He could replicate voices quick. Look, so when you have a problem with Data, it's always really, 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 really good to try to figure out what's wrong with Data. And also, I'm gonna have to say, if I'm security and I'm assigned to escort a probably malfunctioning or pissed off Data anywhere, I quit. I'm gonna resign my Starfleet commission right there on the spot. No, I think that's a job for Worf. That didn't work out too well for Lore, but hey, I mean with him and Lore, but hey, anyway. So I like the way that they handled the interactions with those personas with Data. Okay, for instance, with Picard and Troy, for instance, they were never belittling. They were never condescending. They were always interested in the interactions with each personality. Okay, I thought that was handled really well, really mature like. All right. Now the second thing was the religious aspects of the episode. Now, okay, before I begin, let me just say that it's again a lot of just what I like to call useless information in my head. All right, but it usually makes for very, very, very good conversation with people. So I don't really consider it useless information. But if the religious aspect. Now, you can go into the it has roots in Egyptian, Indo-European, Meso-American, Native American, Sumerian, even. All right, all of these cultures, Feast of the Soul of Invictus. All of these cultures worshipped a sun deity. All right, and it's not far fetched that that would be something that a lot of other species who had a sun and the moon rotation would find interesting. But what I find weird, nope, that's gonna be later in the video. The things I found weird, okay. But even the Japanese Amaterasu, all right. All of these types of things had a soul deity as a center of their religion, all right. And the other really cool thing about it is that those particular belief structures also had the moon as its counterpart, which we'll get into further on in the episode. So let's talk about this ancient knowledge archive. All right. Now, like I was saying, it's a lot of themes in various sci-fi that covers the ancient archive or ancient wealth or suppository of knowledge or repository of knowledge. Or suppository. Yeah, that's funny. Anyway, of knowledge. So if you notice in Star Trek canon, they do have this recurring a lot. All right. Especially rolling up on things that they thought was comets and come to find out it's either a civilization there, like for instance in the original episode, For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky. All right. So like I've said in other videos, the Star Trek, just our galaxy, the Milky Way, is vast. Most of the stuff that happens in Star Trek is from our galaxy. I think it's only maybe two species, at least two species that came from extra galactic origins. An original series episode where they was coming back turning people into little octagon salt cubes. And the Next Generation episode where those little things was coming to jumping people, take them over and had little thorns sticking out their necks, which I don't know how they got away with that one, and the security scans, whole nother story. But it's a human condition to be able to find everything in one spot that's easily accessible. The internet, for instance. Okay, look how successful that's been. All right, now let's talk about some of the things that probably happened to the Masakans. All right, because from the episode we can kind of deduce a lot. Now they describe that Masaka, which is the sun deity, was responsible for a lot of death and burning and famine and thirst, drought, all that type of things. But what they never referenced was the good aspects of the things that the sun brings, the life-giving aspects to vegetation, for instance, and all that type of things. All right, vitamin D that it gives people for the skin and all of that. But what I found interesting is that they didn't really reference any of that, which leads me to assume that either they was having some type of world event where the sun was going erratic. Maybe they had some type of global warming issue or some type of climate change issue going on at the time of something like this. But the weird thing, nope, I'm gonna get into that at the end. So we have a few interesting characters that Data is being housed. He has Masaka. He has Ehat. All right. He has let's see who else. Kongano. Corgano. He didn't have Corgano. They was talking about this dude Corgano, but we'll get into him at the end. So let's talk about the investigation. How they handled this particular investigation. Now, like I said, whenever they interacted and tried to get information from Data, from the personalities that Data was having, one, he wasn't locked up in a brig, or somewhere that was threatening. He was in a place that was of comfort. He was in his quarters. All right. Once they found out that things were changing on the ship, they didn't decide to leave. Why? Because they're boldly going. Okay. They're doing things with logic, scientific investigation, and caution, with a blend of a lot of curiosity. So they didn't tuck tail and run. Okay, what they did was they decided to investigate. So now the team up of the archaeology, of the science departments of therapy, psychology, stuff like that to address the issue. Troy, Picard, and Geordi, the way they came together to handle, and even Worf, who contributed some good stuff, and they didn't just say no, Worf, but how they invest. Speaking of, Did you notice the lack of people on the ship? Did you notice the lack of crew? And I've been wondering what happened to them. So they made a statement in the episode, right, where they was talking about like, yo, the ship is using our biomatter to turn things into plants and all this type of stuff. Was they talking about the crew? Because if they was talking about the crew, Picard and them didn't seem too worked up about it. And we know they didn't evacuate the ship. And then we know 20% of the ship at least had been turned into alien places. I'll get into the weird thing later. But anyway, but they never addressed the situation with malice or defense or, hey, we need to fire on the artifact or we need to destroy it or anything like that. It was always with caution and curiosity to understand. All right. So that has always been a great thing. Well, not always, because lower decks is not even gonna get into that. But there has been a historical thing in the canon of Star Trek. Okay. So I wanted to talk about also the technology of the Masakans. So you mean to tell me, and this is not a weird thing, but you have a species that existed 85, at least 85 million years before humans ran up on this particular artifact. And this artifact was not only able to interact, interface, and understand Starfleet technology, but to start matter manipulating on a scale that was not even possible for the Federation to do. Okay? And this was 85 million years before this particular contact. All right? Now, I say that because this is obviously a very, very, very advanced race, even by today's Starfleet standards. So it leads me to wonder, how did these things of Masaka and Ehai, how were they so prevalent? How were they not able to transmute uh, structures on their planet into water or into things that would help them survive or to mount a planet-wide evacuation? But I'll get into that later. So let's talk about Masaka's temple. I'm gonna say that Masaka's temple was simplistic, but it was so elegant and beautifully designed. I'll say that right off the bat. Okay, I like the artifacts, the simplicity of the artifacts, the symbolism that was on the artifacts. Um, I liked the how I would interpret the culture to be. Everyone in masks, or with those chest plates representing who they are, or maybe what clan or family they belong to, and they communicate through symbolism, much like they communicated in metaphor in Darmok in the episode Darmok. So I consider this episode a mix of Darmok and the episode Clues. I consider this episode to be a mix of what I like most about both those episodes into this one episode, which is again why I don't understand why people don't like Mass. So anyway, the Temple of Masaka, I think it went on the theme of if you build it, they will come, or if you build it, he will come, which is a theme in a lot of religious and scientific mythology. All right. So, you build a temple of worship, and the people who worship will come there to worship. If they come there to worship, the deity will be present. He will occupy that space. He or she will occupy that space. All right. And they use that in this particular episode. And the sun don't talk to you, man. When has the sun ever talked to you? The sun ain't never talked to you. The sun ain't never had no conversation with you. So what makes Picard think that after everything that he's discovered, that the sun just gonna, yo, dude, what's up? I'm gonna hear what you gotta say. So I don't care nothing about you. So he had to go and figure out how to communicate with Masaka, and they found a way, and it was pretty cool. Now let's talk about the weird things. So the only biological life form that was created that we seen was snakes. Snakes, right? Like, so it's making all alien things, but then it's gonna make a Terran species, snakes. You would think it would have been an alien type of species that popped up. That would have been a lot cooler and a lot more in conjunction with what was going on in the episode. Now, they had a statement where it said Masaka chopped up her father and made the world. And I really couldn't find a correlation with that, with anything in that mimicked or mirrored anything in that I can remember. I didn't do any research, but that I could just recall in old mythology. So I'm gonna have to figure out what's up with that. If anybody knows, please leave it in the comments. That would be awesome. So so again, how could a species this advanced succumb to these effects? So it led me to wonder who then made the ark. So it's possible that it was just a faction or a cult of this species that practiced in conjunction with symbolism, science. Okay, and maybe they made the ark and sent it on its way to maybe further their species, but it wasn't enough of them to mount a planet-wide evacuation, or enough people didn't believe them, uh, or maybe their beliefs that they were going for in science was something that was scorned, or something like that, kind of like what happened back in our dark ages. So again, think of the type of civilization this was, how they communicated, their type of structures, how beautiful it must have been. It was based on just what we've seen, the type of world that they had. We know it was a tropical place, swamps, stuff like that. We know that it was really hot. So I've often wondered, just going back 85 million years, what type of civilization that must have been. So it was another thing that I found odd. In one sentence, Picard says to Masaka, "Yo, um, basically, you're the predator. No, I'm the predator, and and I've been chasing you. You the prey. You've been and all that, all that." And then they're like, right in the next sentence, they reverse it. Yo, so you've been a real strong hunter and everything like that, which would assume that you are the hunter, and then the opposing person then must be the prey. So I don't know if they did something wrong in the editing or something right there, or maybe they actually meant that. But that was just one of those weird things. And then I'm closing. I just want to say, Data again is super awesome. And then at the end of the episode, right, Picard tells Data, "Yo, basically you've been always aspiring to be human, and you've done something that no human has. You've had an entire civilization. You've been an entire civilization." And I'm gonna have to say, he's been an entire civilization twice. Hey, Silicon Avatar. You know that colony? Yeah, Data know all of them. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you found the video interesting, please subscribe and or like. Again, I got another video that I'm supposed to be doing that I'm actually supposed to put some effort into. That's a midnight edition. And so again, thank you all. Thank you guys for all the support and everything like that. It's nice to have you guys comment and notice the channel and the work that I'm putting into it. And please, as always, peace, recycle, and save the whales. You guys be cool.